Call the special meeting of the Transportation Committee to order. It's Wednesday, November 7th, 2018, and it's a little bit after 6. First up is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Next up is approval of minutes for October 17th, 2018.
Move approval.
Second.
Move and seconded. Any changes? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next up is the tab liaison report from October 17th. Peter Dugan is here.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for working so late. We're going to make this brief, and you'll be thankful to know that Mr. Lamb already tipped me off. Brief, okay? Okay. General Manager Lamb and Director Thompson. A couple of quick things from MINDOT agency reports. As Mr. Lamb, General Manager Lamb and I talked earlier, the buses have a new exit ramp, or new entrance ramp, I should say, to 35W South, and I believe that's in Member Latovsky's district or Member Cunningham, but I think it straddles both. And there's a new northbound entrance as well to downtown, and that's the way it will be till 2021. The first business item that we had was a tip amendment for the corridors of commerce, primarily in Chair Rodriguez's area district. It includes Maple Grove to Clearwater and the New Brockton interchange, and it will come before you for final approval on December the 10th. And excuse me, the purpose of it is to combine 3 projects into one for better traffic management, impact, and communication. The other items on the October 17th meeting were actually 3 basic items: funding scenarios for regional solicitation, reallocation policy, and scope change policy. I'm sure you know, the base funding is divided into 3 modal funding ranges. I won't go into all the numbers and the percentages, but the percentages, just so you know, the midpoints for roadways, 58%, transit and traffic demand management, 27%, and bike and pedestrian, 15%. And those are based on historic funding distribution and empiric evidence, and approved by TAB for the 2014 and 16 regional solicitations. In addition, TAB has directed at least $10 million to bridges and one project in each of the roadway functional classifications. If anyone has any question, roadway functional classification, I'll move on. The discussion obviously is focused on this and also investment themes, which are the emphasis, whether it be an emphasis on large versus small projects, expansion or modernization. And of course, the economic impact of multiple small projects or one gigantic project. And the concern also there in the small projects, so that you know, is there's a 30% add-on cost from when federal money is involved, and that makes a disproportionate impact on the small projects. For the schedule of the regional solicitation, the preliminary scores have been released, and TAB will be discussing them in November, December, with approvals in January. And your chair, Madam Rodriguez, offered flexibility to the staff in funding ranges, particularly when there's a natural break, when, let's say, a score is 995. And she also thanked TAB for the $7 million that TAB committed to your project of the Minneapolis Bus Garage. On the scope change policy, I'm sure you know what that is. It's when the scope of work changes, and the question is should they be rescored? And you know, the challenges are, it's usually several years hence, and what was in the mind of the score at the time, and also with a scope change, the new project is more expensive because of inflation and other things than the old project. So it makes the cost-benefit and analysis very difficult. The reallocation policy, again, pardon the repetition if you already know it, is when money is given back to TAB from a project that's not done, and you know, how is it reallocated or reapplied? And both of those items are on for future review. In terms of items of information, I think I mention these because I think these are what your constituents or stakeholders may ask you about. It's something that they may understand versus some of the more technical and things that you do. The cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Memphis sponsored a leadership roundtable in Memphis to focus on helping the healthcare and medical tech industries to grow in both cities. And of course, Memphis is the FedEx hub, and where the Transportation Committee and the TAB enter is supporting the transportation and supply chain infrastructure. The attendees were the who's of Medical Alley, AdvaMed, which is Advanced Medical, Greater MSP, the Commissioners of Transportation and Deed from our state, the Destination Medical Center, the CEO of the Airport Commission, and of course the mayors of Bloomington and Plymouth. And most importantly, we were represented by distinguished members of the council, Chair Chuchumaroff, our own Nick Thompson, and Jim Hovland, the TAB Chair and Mayor of Edina. And as you know, the main speaker there, the keynote speaker there, will have the honor of addressing the council on November 14th. That's Dr. John Casada on Aerotropolis, which is the concept of airports of drivers of economic growth and economic development along with cities in the 21st century. The other information item was the travel behavior inventory, which you graciously funded with $3.2 million over the first 6 years and $2.7 from TAB. It consists of a household survey every 2 years, and every 5th year there's an actual onboard transit survey, and the household data collection has already started. It will end on September 2019. The data is collected from households, vehicles, persons, employments, and trips. Just for information, the travel days are 100,000. The trips are about 500,000, and the data points are 500 million that they'll be scoring on. So it should be quite helpful to you members as you design plans for the future. And there is targeted outreach to rural and low-income communities and immigrants. Preliminary results in 2020. Was I fast enough, Mr. Lamb? Almost as fast as your buses. Almost.
Are there any questions for Mr. Dugan? No. Thank you very much for being here on a different night and a different schedule.
Thank you.
Appreciate
my pleasure.
that. Next up,
I just have to figure out how to get out of the garage. No.
there's nothing. We have reports. I apologize. MTS Director Thompson.
Madam Chair and members, just 2 brief updates about some upcoming events. I've asked to remind everybody about tomorrow is the 125th Annual Transportation Alliance meeting that is held just on the street at the Abu Ghraib Conference Center. This is typically held after the election, and the new governor-elect is invited to speak at 11:30. I have not heard if he's confirmed that. He's probably been busy today. But it's also elected leaders from the legislature speak about the upcoming session. Then there's presentations about future of transportation and some national issues that are going on. And so there's always an opportunity if you have a chance to attend part of that day. It starts at 8, but often people also attend around the lunch hour to hear the elected officials speak. So that's tomorrow. And then, as Mr. Dugan mentioned, we have that session here with Dr. Casada from Aerotropolis. It's really, we saw him in Memphis. I thought it was a really good, interesting presentation about land use and the opportunities of airports. And he's going to really talk about how MSP could really take advantage of where it sits and what it can with our industry. He had a lot of interest from industry, and Delta was quite interested in this presentation. So if you have that opportunity, it'll be held here in Chambers. We're getting quite a few RSVPs, a good diverse set of people from cities and counties and business have said they're going to come and hear that, and I know there's some interest in that. So just pitch that for next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. With that, Madam Chair, that concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from members? General Manager Lamb?
Yes, Madam Chair, a couple of quick things. First of all, several service changes will start taking effect this Saturday, December 1st. The changes focus on routes and route segments with low ridership and where alternative service is available. We began communicating these changes to customers this week, and the next round of scheduled changes beyond December will take effect in March. Second, customers will be invited to share their thoughts about Metro Transit through an onboard and online survey beginning today. The rider survey has been conducted every year or every other year since 1993. Responses help us understand why people ride and what's important to them. The online survey will be available, metrotransit.org, through the end of the month, and then paper surveys will be focused on onboard bus trips, rail trips over the course of the next 4 days. The 2016 survey, as you may recall, showed us that reliability, safety, and travel time were top priorities for most customers. Third, for the second year in a row, we're partnering with BNSF to offer a special North Star holiday train to the Union Depot. The North Star holiday train will make a round trip between Big Lake and St. Paul on Saturday, December 15th, and more details on that to come. And by the way, this month celebrates the 9th anniversary of North Star, which started back in November 16th, 2009. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from committee members? Okay, we can move on to our business agenda. There are no items on consent agenda. The first up on non-consent is 2018-262. It's an easement, an access maintenance and use agreement with the City of Big Lake.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Kim Zleeman. I'm with Metro Transit Engineering and Facilities. This business item is requesting authorization to negotiate and execute an easement agreement and an access maintenance and use agreement with the City of Big Lake. The Minnesota Department of Transportation acquired the property that's outlined and shaded in red in Big Lake as part of the North Star project. That includes the park and ride lot and the vehicle maintenance facility, as well as the roadway that leads from County Road 43 to those facilities. North Star opened in 2009, and in 2011, MINDOT quit-claimed all of the property in red to the Metropolitan Council. During the design of North Star, the project office had worked with the City of Big Lake to design an urban roadway section that met the city standards and what the city wanted to see at the time, with the intention that the council would transfer the roadway to the city upon completion of North Star. That urban section of roadway is shown in yellow on the map. No formal agreement or memorandum of understanding was executed. However, it was the intention that upon completion of the project, the Metropolitan Council would turn that roadway section to the city. But several years have passed and the council still retains the property. Engineering and Facilities has reviewed several options and determined that it would be most cost effective for the council to transfer an easement to the city due to ongoing maintenance costs and estimated future improvement costs for the roadway, for which the city has the mechanism of assessments to recoup some of those costs. A developer is interested in developing on the parcel that's outlined in blue with the desire to break ground in the spring of 2019. So now is an opportune time to move forward with an easement. Engineering and Facilities staff have been coordinating with the city on the terms of the easement. Through ongoing coordination with the city, the council is preparing both a standard easement agreement and an accompanying access maintenance and use agreement to address all other terms. Those terms are yet to be finalized. However, the terms that are listed here are generally have been agreed to broadly by both parties, and that is that the council will convey a permanent easement of that yellow section of roadway to the city, but the council would retain underlying fee ownership. The city would be responsible for roadway management and costs associated with maintenance improvements and improvements in the easement area. The council would be exempt from assessments for future city projects. The council's use would not be impeded and the purpose of the roadway would not change from what it is today. And the council has agreed to reimburse the city to complete some crack filling, seal coating, and replacement of some dead trees because no maintenance work has occurred since the street was originally built. Final agreement terms are contingent upon Met Council and City Council approval. North Star was a federal New Starts project, and this portion of the project included funding from the Federal Transit Administration, the state of Minnesota, North Star Corridor Development Authority Capital Partners, and the Metropolitan Council. We have consulted with the FTA and received their direction to address the easement as an incidental use for their grant management requirements and to manage it as such. The state of Minnesota and the NCDA partners have provided their concurrence to the easement as well, and this action is seeking Metropolitan Council approval. With regard to the Thrive outcomes, the proposed action promotes both stewardship and livability by leveraging the transit investment and helping to facilitate adjacent development. In summary, the requested action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute an easement agreement and an access, maintenance, and use agreement with the City of Big Lake. That concludes this business item, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from committee members or motions?
I would move adoption, Madam Chair.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up is 2018-290. It's ratification of an emergency declaration for the train lift repair.
Good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Pat Jones with Metro Transit's Engineering Facilities Department, and I'm here to introduce Mike Matteo on behalf of Marilyn Porter, who is unable to join us tonight. Mike is the manager of facilities maintenance, and he's going to present the next two business items related to some really critical maintenance infrastructure improvements that had to be made on an emergency basis.
Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members, General Manager Lamb. Again, I'm Mike Matteo, Manager of Facilities Maintenance, and I'm presenting two items to you tonight for consideration. Those are business items 2018-290 and 2018-300. The first of these two items is in relation to emergency declaration for repair of a train lift that we currently utilize at our Hiawatha, Minneapolis LRT rail maintenance facility. Approximately 2 years ago, the maintenance department undertook a increased effort to do inspections and maintenance of some of our bus lifts in our system on the direction of our general manager and others who had requested us to increase our efforts to do maintenance and inspections of some of our critical lifting equipment for our vehicles. Based on that discussion, we entered into contracts with local vendors and industry experts to begin the process of reviewing some of our lifts and looking at the conditions of them to help us assess the conditions of those lifts and do whatever work was necessary. Based on that same initiative, we moved forward this past year in hiring the local contractor, Macton, who was the manufacturer of a lift used in Minneapolis, the Hiawatha LRT facility, to have their staff come out from Connecticut to our facility to inspect it, to check the status of that lift, or those 4 lifts that we currently operate in the Twin Cities. Based on those inspections, they noted that one of the lifts, primarily our oldest lift in the Hiawatha facility, had some substantial issues with it that deemed it necessary for us to take that lift out of service immediately, so that for safety reasons. And upon that, we began the process of working with Macton to identify repair needs for that lift and get that lift back into operation as quickly as possible. Based on lead time for materials and equipment necessary to complete those repairs, we entered an emergency declaration and began the process of acquiring and manufacturing the parts necessary to complete those repairs. Those materials are still in process now. Most of those materials have arrived on site. We still are awaiting some of the materials to be delivered to us, and we hope to have the Macton lift repaired and back into service, we hope, by the end of November of this year, to return that to service for the rail facility. So this business item relates to our emergency declaration for those needs, for the funds used to procure this work and to facilitate the quick turnaround of this repair process in order to minimize the impact to the rail facility by not having one of their 2 operating lifts in operation. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there questions from committee members?
Move approval.
Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And next up is 2018-300, another ratification of emergency declaration.
Madam Chair and committee members, our next business item for discussion relates to some heating repairs that we currently have in process for one of our facilities that we operate through Metro Transit. The facility that we're working with is known as the TCC, or the Transit Communication Center, which is our nerve center for the bus operations, which handles all of our operations and has the operators that work and do the dispatching and monitoring of bus routes within our system. The TCC is located in Minneapolis and is adjacent to our Haywood garage facility. The current heating system that's in place for this building is a heating system that was designed to run off of a sister component from the Haywood garage through a underground piping system that provides heating material to that building to provide that heat. In September, we recognized and identified some issues with that shared heating system, and upon review and looking at the issue that was in place, after doing substantial research and talking with local experts, including our engineering department, it was determined that at that time it was more efficient for us to design and install a new independent heating system for this building. So we moved forward with the idea of looking at the installation of 2 independent boilers that would heat this building rather than using the heating system from the adjacent building to heat it. In speaking with the local vendors, we at that time we solicited 4 local companies for bids for this work. We received hard bids from 3 of those companies. And in those bids, all 3 companies identified a lead time of approximately 12 weeks to manufacture these boilers to be installed. Looking at the lead time required to manufacture these boilers, we determined that delay of the procurement of these pieces of equipment could result in us not being able to meet the heating needs of this building with the incoming or onset of winter. So we moved ahead with an emergency declaration and entered into a contract with the low bid contractor on this project, and they began the manufacture of these boilers immediately in order to try to meet those needs. Those boilers are in the final stages of production now, and we expect those to be delivered to that facility within the next week and a half. And we expect those 2 boilers to be installed and up and operational by the end of November, meeting the needs of the coldest winter months of our season. The benefit to this additional system is that the TCC building was also designed with the option of adding onto that building with a second story in the future. If that second story is ever realized, the new heating system that we installed allows for the simple addition of a 3rd boiler that's also part of that design that would meet the future heating needs if the building were to be expanded. Any questions, Madam Chair or committee members for me?
Are there questions from the committee? Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is 2018-293 amendment to professional services contract.
Madam Chair, council members, my name is Claudius Tusa with the Metro Transit Office of Engineering and Facilities. This business item is to request that the council authorize a contract amendment to increase building performance specialist contract value by $220,630 for a revised contract value of $536,040. The objective of this contract is to complete the preparatory work required to develop the council's asset management plan. The preparatory work includes condition assessment of the council's facilities. The existing contract is for the assessment of 61 of the council's 166 facilities. Staff would like to amend the contract to assess the remaining 105 facilities. An amendment is preferred over a new contract as it allows for continuity in evaluating the asset conditions. This work is being done as part of the requirement of the state of good repair legislation. However, FTA rules leaves the definition of state of good repair to the individual transit operators based on life cycle costs. To make the business decisions, assessment of our facilities should be done through a single lens. Much of the assessment is subjective and dependent on the evaluator and system of evaluation. Having one firm conduct the condition assessment would enable the assessment to be carried out in a consistent, measurable fashion. Also, to achieve consistency through a new contract would cause a substantial duplication in costs that is not expected to be recovered through competition. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Director Thompson.
Madam Chair, members, just to add, some of these facilities are ones that through MTS contracting, we're covering the suburban transit facilities in this contract so that there's good regional consistency. And so I think, and the suburban partners have been on board with this approach also. So it's a good partnership.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilmember Dorfman.
move approval. Second.
First, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up is 2018-294 is master contracts for electrical engineering services.
Madam Chair and committee members, I'm Julie Brenny with Metro Transit Engineering and Facilities, and I'm presenting business item 2018-294. Metro Transit has used master contracts for engineering services since 2001, and this is a single discipline category specifically for electrical engineering. This procurement does replace an existing group of contracts which are expiring and have been fully exhausted. The contracts are used by staff for capital and operating projects at both public and support facilities and across all modes. And the funding for any of those projects is provided for in the projects as they arise. The forecast we have for the years 2019 to 2022 requiring electrical engineering is currently $4.2 million. And that will probably increase in the latter years as more work is programmed. Projects include things like lighting upgrades, HVAC upgrades, building system, automations upgrades. And many of the projects provide savings to the operating budget, and that payback is calculated before any work is initiated. Because this is a single discipline procurement, there was no DBE goal. However, one of the 4 firms that was selected by the panel is a DBE firm. And it meets the Thrive analysis through stewardship as we're improving our facilities. So we're requesting authorization to award 4 contracts at a value of $250,000 each. And with that, if anyone has any questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there questions from committee members? Councilmember Munt.
Madam Chair, I'm curious which of the firms is a DBE?
Madam Chair and Council Member, the DBE firm is Hallberg Engineering.
Are there any further questions?
Move adoption, Madam Chair. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is 2018-298 authorization to negotiate and award monitoring and diagnostic system RFP.
Madam Chair, committee members, I'm here to present business item 218-298. I'm asking for the authorization to negotiate and execute a contract with Siemens for the replacement of our current monitoring and diagnostic system on the Type 1 LRVs. The monitoring and diagnostic system collects and records information about the performance of various systems and devices on the vehicle. This is done through 3 subsystems. An event recorder, which records the data, monitoring and diagnostic logic, which is essentially a computer, which collects, processes, and reports information, as well as a train operator display, which reports information directly to the train operator by way of a monitor. The current MDS system is no longer supported by the original equipment manufacturer, and replacement parts are no longer available, which essentially is making the system obsolete. A procurement solicitation in the form of a request for proposal was made. 4 vendors submitted proposals. An evaluation panel was put together with representatives from finance, quality assurance, rail operations, and then, of course, light rail vehicle maintenance. After a thorough evaluation of all of the proposals, the evaluation team has determined the Siemens proposal due to the number of off-the-shelf components, the minimalization of specialized components, and the proposed system flexibility requests the authorization to negotiate and execute a contract with Siemens. Madam Chair, at this time, if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from committee members? No? Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second. Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We're a tired bunch.
Tired.
Next up is 2018-284.
Guess we're the last one on the list, Madam Chair. I'm Jim Alexander, Project Director for Southwest LRT. I'd like to introduce Sarah Gandor. She's been involved really from the get-go on design on the stations and landscaping and everything else on this project. And so I wanted to present her to introduce this business item tonight.
Hello, Madam Chair, council members. I'm here to present the subrecipient agreement between City of Eden Prairie and the Met Council for business item 2018-284. The Eden Prairie Town Center Station is located, that red dot there, between Southwest Station and Golden Triangle Station, basically the second to last station on the corridor. In 2018, the station was deferred from the project budget due to some budget reductions. In 2016, the city applied for some federal CMAQ funding, and in 2017, the TAB awarded a grant to the city to fund the station. This illustration shows the station there in green, and that would be built with an access road to get to the station. And the grant project really is two parts. One part is to construct the station, and the other part is to for the City of Eden Prairie to acquire some additional right-of-way that goes beyond what the project has acquired for some pedestrian access to the project. The cost estimate is just over $7.6 million, and 80% of that would come from the federal grant, and 20% would come from local match, which would be the City of Eden Prairie. They passed a resolution in May of 2018 to fund that local match and to cover any additional expenses that could incur at 100%. I'd also note that this was approved in the second quarter budget amendment, business item 2018-153. This is an illustration of the station looking to the northeast, and wanted to also note that the design plans for the station are completed. They're on the shelf, and the process would be to issue this change to the project as a change order to the civil and systems contracts. This is another illustration looking northeast at the station. In summary, the subrecipient agreement would memorialize the subrecipient's report and expenditure of the grant funds, the local match amount and responsibility, and how the grant funds would be used to reimburse the project for construction of the station. Our recommendation is to authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute a subrecipient agreement with the City of Eden Prairie, the grant recipient, related to funding the construction of Eden Prairie Town Center Station with the Southwest LRT project. With that, we'll take any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions from committee members? No? Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, just a
Councilmember Mott.
comment. I so much appreciated the City of Eden Prairie's partnership on Southwest LRT. When we had to tighten the belt, they were willing to give up this station. I'm so glad that it's being added back, in part because if you look at the population within a half mile of this station, more than 50% are racial and ethnic minorities. It meets our equity goals.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I move approval.
Second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. So is the consensus of the committee that we put them all on consent, or we could leave number 7 on non-consent, since it's nice, it's a good news story that Town Center Station's being added back in. Okay, so we'll leave that on non-consent. All right. I want to thank my colleagues and staff for staying this late as well. Yes,
When is our next meeting?
Councilmember Elkins. I believe our next meeting is the 26th.
26.
26, okay, so basically 2 weeks from Monday?
Yes, and I'm sorry, that was the other thing that we needed to discuss. Councilmember Reynoso had suggested that we move back to Robert Street for the remaining meetings. On the 26th was a planned tour for the Sea Line. So that it wouldn't work well to have the meeting that day. But we could look at the only December meeting. We could look at switching. I don't have a preference. So I don't know if committee members have strong preferences about it. I believe we only have the one December meeting, correct?
As of right now.
December, like 10th, yes, as of right now. 12th, yes.
Is the parking situation is not going to improve over there, is it?
No, it's so bad over there.
It will get better.
It'll get better after December.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may, I think it's a good idea if we can just move it back here for the December meeting. It's only one meeting. It shouldn't inconvenience our staff that much, but it is very difficult to get parking in there, so.
If there's no other opinions, then I'm fine with that. Councilmember McCarthy.
Can Mr. Lamb assure us that there will be parking?
Madam Chair, council members, we're currently doing some work right now in the parking lot, so it was fortuitous that today's meeting was over here. But by that December meeting, we'll definitely have enough parking for the full committee right out in front of the building.
Doesn't matter either way.
I'm not lobbying one way or another. I'm just trying to give you a factual reference point.
We could revisit it on November 26th and make sure there's parking.
Why do you want it here?
Because of the parking situation over there.
Well, I'd rather have it over there.
So let's have it over there, because that's what you want.
Okay. We will make sure that there is reserved parking for Councilmember Reynoso.
Thank you. I don't care about everybody else. It's me.
Thank you all. We're adjourned.